Hey everyone, hopefully you're having a good day. My name's Andy. My channel is Finding Value. Today we're going to do our daily technical analysis update of commodities. We'll take a look at it. Looks like we've got some further declines in inventory and oil, although oil prices are still heading lower. Very interesting. And we'll step through the dollar, 10-year yield, and then all the commodities that I follow in precious metals. So if you guys like viewing this stuff, if it's a good content, give me the thumbs up, smash the thumbs up button for me. Help me out there. And we're going to dive in here and I'll give you my financial opinion. So let's dive into the charts here. This is, again, DXY. It's basically a relative strength indicator. We are paused at this strong resistance line. Again, it's a long-term resistance line through here. We're paused at it. And usually when the dollar, the DXY falls, that gives us a tailwind. It's like an extra booster for our commodities. Commodities are still going to do well, but it's an extra tailwind behind us when this falls, as commodities are priced in dollars. Looking at the 10-year yield, the 10-year yield is remaining resilient up here. We were up 0.7%. We're right on that resistance area. That resistance area is this guy right here. We've got a nice big bullish candlestick trying to break out of it this month. This is a monthly candlestick. And it looks like we're trying to turtle head and break out to the upside. So that's where we are on the 10-year yields. TLT, which are bond prices, yields higher, prices are lower. This still looks like garbage for continued movement lower. This is still selling off today about 1% lower. I still think this has more headwinds ahead of it. Lower bond prices, higher yields. TYX, the 30-year bond, continuing to go higher at 1%. The 30-year is outpacing the 10-year. That is positive for precious metals. And you're going to ask, well, why are precious metals falling? Good question. Good question that I don't have an answer for. Well, actually, I do have an answer for it. And I'll show you here real quick what that answer could be. But the 10-year or the 30-year yield breaking the long-term resistance line, trend line, and it is heading higher. It looks really good for a move higher, which is actually good for our oil, precious metals, and commodities. I'm going to jump and show you long-term trends.net. Precious metals could be falling because of the M2 money supply growth. It is falling down here recently. It's been contracting, I should say, it's not contracting. It is going up at less of a rate. So up here it was going up, the black line, 27% or so, and now we're going up only 5.3%. The way that the Federal Reserve is handling this is they're trying to slow the money growth to slow the inflation. But the way they measure the inflation rate is through the CPI. And they don't have an answer for higher energy prices, which is going to impact your CPI. So what they're doing is they're trying to fix a problem with declining the M2 money supply and measuring it, the inflation rate, through the CPI, which is really an energy crisis problem. So I don't know if what they're doing is actually going to be successful. They can lower the money creation downward, but it may not lower the inflation rate that they measure through the consumer price index. And what precious metals are tracking is that M2 money supply. Now, we've got a little bit more sell-off in the CRB index heading lower. This is basically more or less the oil price determining this to the most extent. But we're heading a little bit lower. Could we get a little bit lower down here? It's possible. I don't think oil looks that bad. We'll take a look at it and I'll show you the inventory levels. Gold is heading lower. Again, I don't know if I jump in front of this train yet. Look for a contraction or a reversal candlestick. We are still heading lower in it. And I just don't jump in front of, I don't try catching the falling knife. Silver is also heading lower. We are playing with this support level. We're going to have to see if this support level holds. If this support level doesn't hold here, we have a lot of support underneath it. So I think we'll find support somewhere in this general vicinity. I don't know if we're going to get all the way down to $14 an ounce. I know I said $14 an ounce, pretty low, but it's a possibility if things were to get scary in the markets. Platinum also heading lower. We're finding support. The opening and closing price is basically finding support right in this vicinity. We'll see if it holds. Would I jump in front of this? I mean, yeah, I would, just because that's what I do is cost average in. But be patient and wait for a turn if you want to buy into strength if you have more of a trading mentality. XAU to gold ratio still heading lower, means that the gold and silver mining companies are underperforming gold itself. It means that we're not in prime time area for gold and for miners. And that money contraction, the M2 money supply contracting in its growth, is, I think, the driver of this. Looking at SILJ still heading lower. We're right on support. We have to see if this holds. And then GDX is starting to head lower, where we're starting to break away from that support level. We could see a little bit lower pricing here. We do have support down here in $22. There's a lot of support in that region. This region through here, lots of buyers and sellers all through here. So there is a lot of support underneath us. We'll see where we find support. Looking at crude oil still heading lower. Let me get to the 1 year here, guys. There we go. We're heading lower here. It did sell off. We're playing with this support line down here. Could we head lower in the short term? Very well could. I don't know how they're doing it. They must be just flooding the market with paper or whatever the heck they're doing. But at the same time, we're still eating through our crude, gasoline, and distillate inventories. We're still drawing down. Interesting mix, isn't it? We've got prices coming down at the same time that our inventories are continuing to draw down. This is a pretty rare setup, and I think that we're going to see a big buying opportunity. If you look at some of the energy service companies, you look at some of the energy companies, exploration, production, people are positioning in those companies. So we do see a divergence between the companies and the physical oil price itself. So that is something to note. Natural gas is remaining resilient up here. We're up 1% today. We haven't pulled back much. Are we still going to pull back a little bit? It's possible, but it's being resilient. I don't see a ton of selling pressure yet, at least in this stock. So it's still looking good. So natural gas could hang out here for a while during the fall, and then we start to make our move higher in the winter. That's what I expect, at least. XOP, yeah, you know me, getting a bullish piercing pattern where the stock tracked lower throughout the day. It opened down here, and it closed basically at the 50th percentile or higher on the candlestick before. That usually indicates a bottoming type pattern where we could potentially move higher. So the companies themselves, people are positioning in, but we're seeing weakness in the underlying crude oil commodity. Energy service companies, OIH, we're right on support. I think there's some good opportunities in energy service companies. I'll talk about those energy service companies during my midweek update for the Platinum members in the description link below. Sign up if you want to know what those updates are, and I'll go over them for everybody and release it today. Scrolling down, looking at uranium. Uranium is selling off a little bit. This is probably from yesterday, $49. The Sprott Physical Uranium Trust. So I'm just getting one that we can see. Heading higher today. And that's good because we're doing this in the face of a down market of the overall stock market. So that's great. We've got Uranium also showing strength. We gapped lower, but the buyers came in and pushed it higher momentum-wise. We still had a down day, but the momentum is heading higher, and that's what I look for. Momentum. Are the sellers killing us to the downside? They are not. Buyers are coming in and buying these little pullbacks. CCJ, yeah, small down day, but we got a little bit of buying pressure throughout the day. The momentum is ending higher. I think we could still head higher here. And we're coming up to some areas where we've had previous resistance. Like this area in here is a previous resistance area, and we're heading towards that area here very shortly. If we break out above it and close above it, we could see the promised land, guys, up there. But we got to break this resistance area. We do have a little bit of resistance through this line through here. That's resistance through here. So if we can close above this first resistance line and then close above the second, we go to the promised land. Looking at TAN, TAN also showed a little bit of strength today, irrespective of the overall markets, up 0.84. I still think this looks good here for solar. Still looks good. COPX, looking at copper, down a little bit today. We've broken this upward trend line here. We could head back a little bit lower and drift just a little bit lower than where we're at today. Looking at the CRB to S&P 500, a little bit lower today. Again, still not too bad. Everything looks in check to move higher for commodity outperformance. We're looking at rare earth metal ETF. Looks like we're trying to put in some sort of bottom. I think, in this general vicinity is where we're going to find some good support. We'll see if the buyers show up and throw a bullish candlestick. Lithium, LIT, also getting some more selling pressure. I still think we're going to do a retest here. So that's where the $72, $73 is probably where it's going to end up, just below where it's at. Do a retest. Looking at SPX, still further selling pressure. I wouldn't jump in front of that train. The only thing I would do is jump on the train so it goes lower. So I still think higher yields, lower stock market. Higher yields, lower U.S. composite NASDAQ, I think is still going to have pressure to go lower. EEM, weaker dollar, a little bit higher on EEM, had a little bit momentum loss, but I still think in this general vicinity, we're probably going to bottom out here and start turning around. XHB, which is the home builders ETF, still some good selling pressure behind this. I still think we're going lower in this ETF, but we do have a broken downtrend line, so maybe we come back and retest at a lower level here. Probably somewhere in this range there, $58. Lumber heading higher. That's actually looking good to move higher, so I think that looks good. Cocoa futures still looks good to go higher, up a little bit today. Wheat futures looks good to go higher. We've broken out. We're sitting on top of support. That looks great. Soybeans still spooling up in this squeeze zone. We'll see which way it breaks. Corn, a little bit of a down day, still looks good. And then we've got copper. It is, heading a little bit lower here. Kind of breaking lower. We'll see if it slingshots its way higher or not. I'm not as convinced with it. You remember, there's a lot of recessionary fears out there. Some of these base metals could be taking it on the chin because of the energy prices, especially in Europe. A lot of demand will be destroyed from those high energy prices for a lot of the base metals and stuff like that from business perspectives. Moo still pulling back. I still think this looks a little bit weak. I'm going to wait for some buying pressure before I start jumping in there. Aluminum also looking a little bit weak. We're still putting in a bottoming process. We've got support underneath it. Still looks all right. And then BDI, good strong down day today, but it looks like the sector has been moving higher. So money's rotating into the shippers. We're just getting a last maybe capitulation bottom in the Baltic Dry Index. So that's what I've got for today, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed it. I still think uranium looks really strong. I think the oil exploration and service companies look good. So I think that everything's still looking good. and I'm going to be hanging on to those shares. Precious metals still look pretty weak. We could see further downside in it, but I'm looking at the precious metals and really keeping my eye on them because I think there's some deals there. If you guys like the content, give me a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel. Subscribe to the Platinum website below. I'll be releasing a midweek update here any second so you guys can follow. All right, guys, we'll catch you later. This is Finding Value.